Every year, we go through the long list of players, narrow them down, and form our ranks. It's a great exercise to truly understand your feelings on a player. But, without fail, there's going to be a group of players that frighten you. Whether it's due to injury concerns, bad offenses, maybe they have positional competition, whatever the reason is, they scare you, and that leaves an uneasy feeling in your mind. Today, we're going to discuss 5 of the scariest players for the upcoming fantasy season. Regardless the reason, these guys terrify me. Coming in at number 1 on my list is Devonte Adams, ADP, wide receiver 4, 10th pick overall. Now listen, we all know Devonte Adams is awesome. I mean, he literally has finished as the number 2, 1, and 2 wide receiver in fantasy football. But this was with back-to-back MVP Aaron Rodgers on a team with literally no competition for targets. Adams is going to be the 10th player in a PPR league, so that's a late first rounder. And for him to be worth a first round pick, we need a really great season. The reason Adams scares me so much is because of this man.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Listen, Derek Carr isn't actually that bad. I mean, he's a solid quarterback, but he's not even close to Aaron Rodgers. So while I do expect Devonte Adams to have a good season overall, I'm scared because I believe it's going to be a really rocky season. Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow are both great weapons that should be used on a playoff caliber team. If we get to the end of the season and Adams puts up a 1,200 yards and 6 TD season, sure, that's good, and he'll likely finish inside the top 10 at the position, but it won't be close to the draft capital you have to pay, and that's why he scares me. Before we go any further, we are 6 subscribers away from 400. So if you're liking the video so far, like and subscribe to the channel for more content. It's August, so the fantasy season is here. Let's get you ready to dominate your league, and let's grow together. All right, let's get on to my number 2 player, Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley comes in as the ADP running back 14, 23 overall. Look, you're either a supporter or you hate Saquon Barkley. This one is pretty simple. Barkley had a rough 2021 season. I did a video looking at almost every play, honestly, if not every play that he had from 2021. And I thought at the beginning of the season, he looked great. I thought he was back. I thought in that week 4 game against the Saints, he looked awesome. He had that one awesome catch down the sideline where he made the safety miss, and he had a great red zone run on the goal line where he made guys miss and broke into the end zone showing off his quickness. But then in week 5, he rolled his ankle against Dallas and wasn't the same the rest of the year. Saquon's a tough case because he has everything going against him, right? Not an inspiring offense. Daniel Jones is dog water. He has a history with recent injuries. But the one major thing that makes him so appealing, he is so talented, he can finish as the RB1. Oh yeah, I said the RB1. Saquon has me spooked for this year. The Giants will either put together a solid offense that can provide rushing lanes and pass catching opportunities for Barkley, or they'll be taking kneel downs on, 3rd and 10 like they did last year with Jake Fromm and whoever crappy quarterback they had. And they'll be miserable. And that, for Saquon Barkley, can be a huge bust at pick 23. And that's why I'm terrified of Saquon Barkley for this year. Coming in at number 3 on my list is Jalen Waddle, ADP, wide receiver 15, 41 overall. Waddle at wide receiver 15 literally makes no sense to me. I haven't been impressed with Tua at all so far in his career. Tyreek Hill is now the wide receiver 1, and to be a solid wide receiver 2 for fantasy football and finish as a top 15 wide receiver is really hard to do in general. And what did these guys have in common? Chris Godwin, T. Higgins, Mike Williams, Tyler Lockett, all wide receiver 2s on their respective teams. What do they have in common? Oh yeah, star quarterbacks, which Jalen Waddle, not even close. We don't even know if he has a competent starter. The reason Jalen Waddle scares me so much is I worry it's just not going to be there for him, right? To have 2 wide receivers that are good for fantasy football, you need to throw for 4,000 yards and 30-plus touchdowns, and I don't know if Tua Tagovailoa is capable of even coming close to those numbers. And let's be honest, this is Tyreek Hill's team. There's no way Jalen Waddle's going to outscore Tyreek Hill. There's just no way. Waddle scares the hell out of me for this year. The pick doesn't make any sense, and maybe he doesn't even belong on this list. Maybe he just belongs on a, overdrafted list or overvalued list. But Jalen Waddle scares the crap out of me for this year. Coming in at number 4 on my list is Antonio Gibson, ADP RB19, overall 38. Look, I like the talent of Antonio Gibson. He's shown flashes of being a pretty solid, sturdy back that has quickness and can make cuts and is pretty agile. But last year, despite the stats, they don't tell the story. I think he lost some major trust with that coaching staff and just the whole organization in general. He would drop a pass and he'd fumble in a key situation. He got benched. Like, he would legit get put in the doghouse last year. Also, this past draft, the Commanders drafted Alabama running back Brian Robinson in the 3rd round, aka the same round they drafted Gibson back in 2019. Also, J.D. McKissick is back in town after leaving for Buffalo, but coming back last second back to Washington. And despite only playing 11 games last year, McKissick finished with more receptions than Gibson when Gibson played the whole year. Look, there's a ton of factors here that make me afraid of Antonio Gibson. I think he's a good player, but I don't love the situation. I don't like how crowded that backfield is. I don't trust that I can't trust him to stay on the field and not fumble or miss a pass block or drop a pass, whatever the case may be. He gives me the creeps, man. I don't know what to tell you. Antonio Gibson, that's one of the scariest players for me in fantasy football. And to round out my 5 scariest players to own in fantasy football list is Michael Thomas, wide receiver 31, 72 overall. And God, I am terrified of Michael Thomas. Literally, everything says don't draft him. He started training camp on the pup. To be fair, he is now off the pup, and you see all of the crazy highlights of him, running routes and knocking dudes off their feet. Look, it's training camp, man. Don't overblow it. And let's remember, we haven't seen him play football on an actual field and an actual game that counts in over a year. Jameis Winston looks like the starting quarterback, and he's coming off a torn ACL. And let's be honest, he kind of sucked when his knee wasn't in 2 pieces, when his knee was stable. The Saints, they drafted Chris Olave. And not to mention, one extra thing that I'd even write down in my notes. Oh yeah, there's no Sean Payton anymore. Now, you might be saying, well, listen, if it's, wide receiver 31, that isn't too high to spend, If he sucks, it's not too pricey. I'll just cut him or, he'll just sit on my bench, whatever. It's not like I really spent a high draft pick. But let's be honest. Who are we kidding? Wide receiver 31, that's not going to happen for Michael Thomas. As August comes and we get deeper and deeper and we see more of these, highlight clips of him in training camp, and maybe we see him play in the preseason where he catches a couple passes, his ADP will skyrocket. The main reason Michael Thomas scares me is because of this. We all know he can finish as a top 5 wide receiver because he's done it before. It's like in the horror movie. It's like watching Halloween. You shoot Michael Myers, you shoot the killer. He falls out of the 2nd-story window, and you're sure he's dead. You're positive. He falls out the 2nd-story window, but when you go down the stairs, you open the door, you run to the shattered glass in the yard, and you see a bloodstain, but there's no body. We were so sure that Michael Thomas is dead this year, but that's when he jumps out of the coffin. That's when he pops up in the 2nd movie, and he's awesome once again. And that's why I'm so scared of Michael Thomas, because I know I can either get a player who's going to be, battling injury all year with his bad ankle that he missed over a season with, or if I don't draft him, I can miss out on a potential top 5 wide receiver. And that is so scary to me. And all right, those are my 5 scary players for 2022 fantasy football. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, if you stuck to the end, I really appreciate it. We're 4 subscribers away from 400. So if you liked the video, like it down below, subscribe to the channel, stay tuned for plenty of more content. We're in August. Fantasy football season is here. It's fast approaching. We're just 2-3 weeks away from drafts and getting really into the season. So once again, I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you guys next time.